So I took my Jackson Racing Supercharger kit off my Accord. Now I'm putting it back on, and I figured I should do a video talking about all the parts, components, the bolt sizes, and then complete the video with the entire installation of it from start to finish, minus a few of the clearance issues and little kinks I had to work out along the way. So I'm going to get into it, starting with these little bolts that hold down the bypass valve. These are M6 by 1.0 hex heads, 15 millimeter. The 6 that hold down this plate, actually we're going to start top to bottom. These ones that bolt to the plenum, these ones are there's 3 of them, M8 by 1.25, 40 millimeters long with the 17 millimeter shank. There is 2 hex heads there and here, and those are M8 by 1.25, and they're 40 millimeters long, the really small shank on them. This one here goes through. So this plate bolts to the bottom of the supercharger. So these ones come up through the bottom, and these are M8 by 1.25. They're 20 millimeters long, and they use a hex head. Bolts to that down there. And then once this is bolted to the supercharger, it drops down like that and is secured with 6 M8, oh, I didn't write it down. No, I did. M8 by 1.25, and they're 25 millimeters long. And then moving over to the pulley plate, which is pretty complicated. This is an alternator, or the bracket that goes behind the alternator. So this is where the 4 holes for the alternator bracket go through, like that. And then this hole is for this little guy right here, which the pulley plate bolts to through that hole. So that goes through, has the little bolt, and this is turned sideways and goes right into the side of it there. This one, M8 by 1.25, it's 20 millimeters long, and then the one that goes into it through there is M8 by 1.25, and it's 25 millimeters. This one, which I don't use because I don't have power steering, bolts on somehow in some configuration. I imagine it's like this, to the power steering pump. I don't know, I don't use it. This also bolts the power steering pump, don't use that. Intake air control valve. This is the one that comes with the Jackson, with the kit, and it bolts there, but I cut the bracket off, which creates a problem because the throttle cable is supposed to bolt to this. So I cut up a throttle cable, bent it, and made it fit on like that, which is a pretty simple fix. And then you could buy a Roscoe Racing intake air control valve adapter, which I used that for a while, but it made a weird snorting sound and I didn't like it, so I took it off, and now I just deal with it. There's 4 smooth pulleys, or 3 smooth pulleys on here. This one goes right there, but you have to take it off to get to this bolt to install and remove the pulley plate. And then there's the 1 rib bolt. These bolts, one of them is there's 5 or 6 of them, depending if you added an extra one, and if you count this one. They are M10 by 1.25, and they're 40 millimeters long with a 13 millimeter shank. And then they use a washer behind the bolt that goes through. There's a washer, and that is, I don't know, just kind of big enough. I didn't feel like measuring it. This bushing goes behind the pulley, and that one is 3/4 outside diameter, 3/8 inch inside diameter, and it's 3/8 of an inch tall. And it's made of steel. Moving on to where the pulley plate bolts onto the jack shaft. There's 3 of these M6 by 1.0, and they're 20 millimeter hex heads. And then that feeds through to this plate, which use 4 M8 by 1.25 bolts to hold it down right there. And then this piece goes through, this is the tensioner, somehow attaches in there, just slides like that. And then this goes on the other side, uses a M8 by 1.25 30 millimeter bolt. I use flange nuts. I lost one, so this is a substitute. That kind of just goes in there like that. This is M6 by 1.0, and this one's 45 millimeters long, and I need to replace it with one that is fully threaded, but maxing out these threads is about tight enough on a stretched out belt, so that's fine. And then these 4 right here are studs, and they are 40 millimeter long studs. They are M8 by 1.25, but if you wanted to swap them out for bolts, probably about 30 millimeter, 35 millimeter bolts. And this piece here bolts on to the back of the supercharger like that. And then the throttle body bolts to there. Respective gaskets. I broke the Jackson Racing gasket, so I had to make my own, and then this is a Speed Factory Racing gasket. So I'm gonna start throwing this on, hopefully get some clips, or I will get some clips. I'm gonna set up the GoPro and just watch it, and then maybe do a little bit with my phone, but I'm almost out of storage space, so probably not so much with the phone. Okay, so I do want to show this one off. That is where a ground goes for the valve cover. And then it's easier to bolt the pulley plate to the jack shaft first. And then down here, you can see the little square that bolts to the back, to the adapter plate on the back of the alternator. And then right in there, you can see where it threads in. So I'm going to try to get this one-handed, maybe. Something like that. Just get this started. But I want to try to get this done. Oh, there we go. Get this in first before you bolt the pulley or the jack shaft down. So otherwise you're never gonna get it. That took a lot of effort to not sing it. And then I use this AutoZone like multi thing, which is pretty sick. I love this thing. Sweet. So before I lock that down, get these jack shaft bolts in, make sure they line up good. Okay, now I will return to get this. Okay. Then you gotta tighten that one right there. And then I'm gonna put that pulley on, and the jack shaft side is done, aside from putting the alternator back. I think that's a good spot. And that just goes right in there. But that's not always an option. So next is the blower. I'm gonna route the vacuum line to the bypass valve. Also out of the way, and my map sensor, since this car came with a firewall mounted map sensor, pretty easy for getting boost. And get this up and out of the way. Now we're ready for the blower. So this part kind of sucks. I got my brake booster line back here. I gotta squeeze on at the same time. And that's that. Grab my 6 adapter plate bolts. So you would think that the ones in the back would be the worst ones to get to, and surprisingly enough, they're actually some of the easier ones to tighten down. Granted, it's hard to get the bolts there, but once you get them there, it's not too bad. I'll show you what I mean. Also, I'm not sure if there's this much firewall clearance on a Prelude. I imagine there is, but probably not. There we go. Alright. Okay, this one, using a 1/4 inch on an extension, just lazy. Deep socket 12 on a 3/8 U-joint. Tightened. 3/8 12mm deep socket with a U-joint and an extension. You just pop it on there. That's how you get those ones. Realized YouTube is sideways, so these 4 pegs right here, and there's one over here, vacuum line holes, I forget what they're called. Fuel pressure regulator goes that one, and then this one goes into my Snow Performance water methanol injection thing, and that reads boost, so it doubles as a boost gauge, but the line they give you is tiny, so it doesn't fit over a thing. over the little nipple. And then one of these is map sensor, and one of them is bypass valve. That one's capped off. And then this is for my brake booster, which I had to bend the shit out of this. Apparently you can just rotate these things. I didn't know that till afterwards, but that's the little setup that I got going. Got the check valve so I don't boost into my vacuum or into the brake booster. So we're pretty close now. Got the tensioner, the short belt, 20 inch, 20 and a half, 19 and a half might work. And then S-tube, the gasket, and throttle body. And then that's pretty much it. Throw the main belt on, throw the alternator back on. The top of the S-tube is thinner than the bottom of the S-tube, so make sure you don't get your gasket flipped when you go to put it on. Okay, so I deleted just about every emissions thing possible on the car. So normally you'd have to route like what all is there? Intake air control valve. I have a PCV valve still, so I don't gotta worry about that. Yeah, PCV valve. That intake air control valve and the PCV run into a T-tap right here, and then that goes into the barbed flange on there. But I just have PCV, so I go straight on there, which I need to get rid of PCV and just run better with catch can. This catch can setup is eBay junk. This is a Skunk 2 70mm throttle body. I port matched the front of the S-tube and then kind of just ground out a little bit on the inside, but the inlet to the supercharger is smaller, has less area than the 70mm throttle body does. I calculated it a while ago. I forget what it is, but so there was kind of no point because I didn't want to chop up my supercharger. So with the supercharger kit, you don't want to have your map sensor right here because it's reading vacuum only and it can't read boost. So that's why my firewall fucking mounted map sensor, which is just zip tied at this point because I deleted the rest of the box that went here. This is like EGR shit, which I deleted EGR too, and then the fuel evap system. But so you want to run your map sensor to where there's a boost. That is not ideal. So, not using something shitty on the fork, right? Oh yeah, so if you delete the intake control valve with the Jackson Racing one, this is the bracket. Okay. Right. So, because it kind of turns, it gets weird. Yeah. So I gotta like find the right spot where it's happy. Twist it and bend it in weird ways. Okay, there we go. Now it's happy. So, jack shaft area. Oh, haha. Yep, that was fucking. This little guy, I'll get this little guy right here goes down in that hole right there. It's like a number 5, I think. 5mm. And just like that, and then tighten it. Don't forget that. And also don't forget to take that off if you ever take your supercharger off. Because you'll get those 6, I'm not used to this, 6 main bolts, and then forget that one little one because it's way down there. So don't forget that. So this is fun. Tuck it down, grab it with your other finger. I have another video of this, so I'll just probably throw that in. Slap that around there. Drop that in. Let it lock in. Shove that in there. That one kind of lined up. Put this one through. There's a bigger flat spot. That's the one that I use. Make sure these are on the right threads. They are nice and tight. I just kind of feel it. So starting out, after you get around the crankshaft and AC if you have it, every flat pulley sees the back of the belt, and then every ribbed pulley sees the ribbed part of the belt. It's like rocket science. So I gotta tuck mine between that bolt and that pulley, and then I go down around the extra idler that I added, and then I walked it off the AC. So normally you want to keep tension on it as soon as you get it onto the AC compressor and the crankshaft. All right. Fuck. This is an 80.5 inch or 20-30 belt, 6 rib, with a cord crank pulley, AC, and the extra idler. It is 80.5 inches. Which it stretches out a lot, so I can't really go with a smaller belt because they're too small to get on at the start, and then they stretch out a shit ton. Tighten shit out of that. Make sure this is still recording. 52 minutes. Holy crap. Alright, we're basically done. Almost done. Alright, so I've just got a cheap, shitty Spectre filter with 2 short ram intakes stuck together, and that is just electrical tape. Definitely not a quality setup. Could definitely use a nicer filter, nicer intake setup entirely, but it works. There's shit that I have laying around. So should be good. Should be done. We've got fuel system was tightened down, all connected. Got throttle, TPS, got the belt set, got this belt set, all the vacuum lines. Those aren't tight yet. I didn't tighten. Prime the pump. Not smelling any fuel, not seeing any fuel. What in the fuck? So I got my throttle body gasket upside down. So I'm gonna flip that, and then hopefully we'll be good. I'm gonna charge the GoPro. Sweet. Supercharged 1991 Honda Accord. Alright, well, my phone is completely out of storage space now, but that is the general install, minus some little kinks that you have to work out. There's a, well, fuck, maybe I should talk about this. Yeah, I'm gonna shut it off and we're gonna go on that. So for the Accord, and probably Prelude, I'm not sure, and maybe for other guys, but this is what I dealt with personally, was I had to space this alternator pulley out with a big ass washer. This stud right here, the stud that goes right there, needs to be replaced with a bolt. I forget how long. I think it's like M12 or M10 by 1.5 or 1.25 by like 30 millimeter or something like that. Had to mount, I should have shown this when the pulley plate was off, but the mount here, you got to cut a little notch, a little square out of it. And then for the 4th gen Accord and Prelude, I believe you have to massage this right here, give it a little persuasion. You can't use factory top hats. You have to use a aftermarket type top hat. I used I used function informed type 2 coilovers. I think most eBay coilovers, anything that doesn't use the factory top hat that sits low. I used a BB6 brake booster and master cylinder, which is bigger than the stock Accord. So I'm sure the stock Accord stuff would still work. And then had to modify the brake booster line, had to bend the nipple over as much as I could without breaking it. And then the TPS will hit on the box that's here if you don't delete everything in the box, which is map sensor and EGR, and that's pretty much it. Oh, I forgot to put that back on. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how you install a Jackson Racing Supercharger on a 4th gen Accord or Prelude, or even a 5th gen Prelude. It's kind of a mixed video because it's not your normal car that you put a supercharger on. But yep, there it is.